what's his story, right? Like what does he fit in? Where does he come from?
Yeah.
And that just led down a rabbit hole, and you start going into the expanded universe, and yeah, it's just
Yeah.
novel after novel and comic after comic, and all of a sudden, you find that there's literally thousands of characters that just were not in the movies, right?
It's wild because I feel like there was a level of mystique to you couldn't find out the answer. Like Shadows of the Empire, you even mentioned like you had to really get out there and find that book.
Yeah,
You couldn't just go on the internet and Google it. But it made it like cooler because it was so limited as far as what you know. And something
yeah,
I think I talked about with Patrick when he was on the show was like I remember if I wanted or when Dragon Ball Z came out, like we only had it on TV, like the reruns, 5 in the morning, you see it. And then somebody one day brought in like a VHS of one of the movies. And the only way to get that was you had to like travel, like take the bus somewhere. I guess you can call it early toy hunting, but you had to like
yeah,
travel out to like find that VHS. You had no idea what it was about, but you know what was on the cover and you'd watch it. And with that, when it came to Shadows of the Empire, because there was no like media like that, it was only the video games. I think it was my cousin who like read some of them. So it'd be like old school. Like I'm sitting there, like, tell me the story. Like who is this Han Solo character? Like, why does he have a ship
yes,
that looks like that? Like, why does
right.
Leia look like all that stuff? I feel like it's lost these days. It's an old man thing, I guess to say, but I feel like it's lost because you could find out any answer just like that, you know?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, just with perfect example, right? Very current, like with the Kenobi trailer,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, Back in those days, if you would have seen that trailer, you would have been like, who are these people? Why does this guy have a
Right.
red lightsaber?
It's
Why does he
spinning.
want Kenobi? Like, yeah, why is it spinning? Like, who is this pale looking guy? All of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and true fans would have been like, oh yeah, he's from Rebels. He's
Right.
this guy maybe from Clone Wars, etc., right?
Yeah.
But now you have literally, even just videos. Like if you don't even want to read, you can just watch a video of
Yeah.
somebody explaining to you shot by shot what each and every single thing is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So to your point, I agree. Some of that, I guess, mystery, like you said, is a little bit lost, and so I think that's also why uh, we have to go from one thing to the other a lot faster
Mm,
because the mystery is gone. So I sort of start losing interest. So I'm looking for that next thing that keeps me guessing, keeps me entertained, and keeps my attention, right?
yeah.
So I definitely get where you're coming from, and I don't know if that's an old man thing, but again, but at this point it probably is.
So one of the things behind you, I feel like, at this point, it's probably 4 years ago now or 5 years ago. It became like a really cool thing to like crap on Star Wars and more specifically the sequel trilogy. Because behind you, I see you have Poe Dameron's helmet. So I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on the current Disney Star Wars? Like, do you hate it? Do you love it? Is it mixed? Or do you just not care because you're just like, it's Star Wars. Give me all the Star Wars.
Right. So that's usually my stance on anything Star Wars. Like,
Hmm.
you know, Star Wars to me is like pizza. Even the crappy ones, still pretty good, right? Uh,
I could. You're talking to a New Yorker. I can't let that one fly. But continue. I'll pretend I didn't
right,
hear it.
right. Yeah. So anyway, I'm all for more Star Wars. All the time, and if you give me different flavors of Star Wars, I'll probably
Yeah.
still love them. Obviously, just like ice cream, we got flavors that we like less than others, right?
Right.
So, um, so again, my Star Wars is the prequel trilogy, right? That's what I grew up with watching in theaters,
Yeah.
episodes 1, 2, and 3. Till this day, one of I think probably my favorite Star Wars movie is Episode 3. It still gets me. It's still, to me, it's visually stunning. The fight scenes, yes, of course, it's not perfect, but let's be honest, there's no perfect Star Wars movie. You know, um, it, it's just,
Yeah.
uh, And so even back then, right, you had the original trilogy fans kind of, hating on the prequels, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't as loud because again, the internet was in its infancy, so
Right.
you didn't have many platforms to sort of, be exposed to that
Yeah.
or share, if that's how you felt. Um, but then, 2005 comes and goes, so episode 3 is done, and they're like, "Yep, that's it, right?
Yep.
We might get a TV show here and there. We might get some cartoons. Back then, it wasn't a done deal.
Right.
Clone Wars was still 3 years off.
Right.
So they're like, yeah, in terms of movies, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, you're not gonna get any more Star Wars.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because George
at
Lucas
least not
was
in
like,
your
"There's no more."
exactly
Yeah.
right. And so I was like, well, he either has to pass away and somebody buy the rights,
Yeah. Yeah.
and make more Star Wars, or somebody just flat out, buys it all from under him, which is sort of what ended up happening.
Right.
Um, so to answer your question, I like them. No, I don't think they're perfect. Again, none of them are. They have really good elements to it, some really good storytelling points, and what I like to call a lot of missed opportunities.
Right.
Which is, of course, we would have liked to see this, would have liked to see that.
Right.
But at the end of it all, I think as fans, we also have to respect it to a certain point, even if you don't like it, even if you straight up hate it,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to remember that is somebody's first Star Wars, right?
Oh.
That is somebody's, they were 6 years old when they saw the first one, they were 10 years old when they saw the last one. That's what they grew up with. That's what imprinted on them. That's their characters, their heroes, right?
Yeah.
And like, honestly, who am I to say they're wrong, right?
Right.
That they shouldn't enjoy that. That's that's I guess I don't know what to call it, but maybe being a hypocrite, right? Like again, so again, there's my biggest gripe with the sequel trilogy is that I don't feel that there was a threat throughout all three movies, right?
Mm.
I feel that all three screenwriters got put into separate rooms, locked away, right, for like a year. And I'm like, okay, are you done? Give me your script. Are you done? Give me your script. Are you done? And
Yeah.
just, you're not allowed to talk to each other, type of thing. So that's my gripe with it. That I have a hard time sort of, jumping from one into the next.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy them. I do rewatch them, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yes, yeah, even the Last Jedi.
That's hard.
Uh, yeah. Now, I'm not gonna say I rewatch it, more than maybe once a year, but
Yeah.
I do watch it.
Yeah. It's so I just have to, because it took me a long time to get to that point where I was like, this is somebody else's entry point. And I was on the bandwagon. Like, I hated Last Jedi. Absolutely hated that movie. And I made a couple of videos on it, and I got to a certain point, like, I felt like being so negative about this movie, like, what am I doing? Like, yes, at the end of the day, it's just a movie, but you know what? It is somebody's vision. It is somebody's interpretation. I cannot judge them on whatever it is that they produced and put out there. Up to me whether I want to rewatch it a million times or 0 times. But two things happened. First one, I was talking to my little cousin, and I forget how old she was at that time, but I was like, she's into everything nerdy. Her dad's into everything nerdy. Her brother's into everything nerdy.
Nice.
And she had a Rey figure. And I was like, oh, like, who's your, like, I saw it like in her toy box, whatever. I was like, who's your favorite, like, Star Wars character? She was like, Rey. And I was like, really? And I asked her dad, I was like, she really likes Rey like that? Like, despite all these flaws that we nitpick as we watch movie review after movie review, he's like, yeah, loves her. He's like, it's her movie. Like, that's her Star Wars. And I was like, I get it now. Like, it isn't for me at that point. And I kind of have to be okay with that. Like, it's somebody else's Star Wars. I still have my Star Wars. You still have your Star Wars. Something else that happened. You mentioned episode 3. I absolutely hated that movie when I first saw it. And the only group to blame for that, Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon. That cartoon series came out, not the most popular one now, the one before that, from the Samurai Jack creator.
Yeah.
Exactly. That show was so amazing. So absolutely amazing. And when the movie came out, I felt like what you just said, where I felt like that writer and this writer were in two rooms, came out, put it together. More specifically, the General Grievous thing. Once I saw Grievous and the way that he died, I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this thing. I was like, Anakin turning makes no sense to me. That was my first moment of like angry fandom, was episode 3. And then a little show comes out, Star Wars Clone Wars 2003. And upon first viewing, I was like, this is not for me. Like, this is a little kid show. It's cheesy. It's whatever. And then the show starts to like roll, and it starts to go, and they start to really go into the characters and like showing like their development, Anakin's development, Anakin dealing with Ahsoka, all this stuff. And upon finishing that series, I rewatched episode 3 and loved it. And I was like, him turning now makes sense, because we saw the whole Clone Wars happen. And I'm wondering if at some point that will happen for The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker. I'm curious. Like, I no longer judge him as hard, because I'm like, right now we are in that Clone Wars part again, because they're making The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, all these things. I'll have issues with those shows, but who knows? There might be that one that comes out, it may be fire, and then you rewatch the sequel trilogy and you're like, oh, it makes sense now. That kind of thing.